Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show, new topic, but not a new guest. She is known to you guys. I mean, she is on the network. Her work is really doing terrific. A lot of great content and great information and insights that she's been providing to her shows. She's a fellow podcaster, and she focuses on the wellness concept. And you have seen her before. We had an interview before. It's been about 3 years already since we had our first talk show together, and she's back. And really, her work is inspiring. I enjoy her work, and I'm honored to have her. Podcast and content in the network because I do know and I believe that it delivers quite a bit to the audiences around the world. Now she's back, new year, a new book, a lot of information, a lot of insights. Megan Swan, welcome back. How are you, Megan?
Oh, thanks, Hurricane. That's such a lovely introduction. I'm well. I mean, it's been, yeah, I'd say a little bit of a slow burn getting 2025 going, but it feels good. I feel like it's big, intentional, focused energy coming into the year and feels really great. And I'm honored to be back.
Well, again, we're at the start point of 2025. As you know, everybody has that resolution, although there's some debates about whether you want to go resolution or not. But the fact is, it's a new year, right? And by the way, I do believe that a new year is every day. So it's a new page, a new, page,
Hmm.
chapter, whatever you want to call it. But the idea, the concept is that it's always good to feel refreshed and a new piece, right? And bring in something valuable again on a day-to-day basis. Um, your focus is really wellness. That's your core. I mean, you've done it for years. I mean, you did change your podcast names, over the since the last time we were. Now it's wellness as of way alive, and actually that's the one that's playing on the network. I mean, folks, if you're watching and listening, you do want to check it out. I mean, great, hundreds of episodes and a lot of great, guests and topics. So it's going to be great. Now, Megan, I know some people may be hearing you for the first time. If you don't mind, just give them a little bit of a breakdown about who you are and how the journey started and got you to where you are today. And then we can deep dive into the whole new things that you're working on and the strategies of how to really making life better. I mean, that's really what, the main thing for us is to improve people's health, life, well-being, seeing the world.
Yeah. Well, I'm now 14 years in the wellness industry. I started off owning and operating yoga studios. It's one of my certifications as an Ashtanga yoga teacher, and I love that. But ultimately, it wasn't my dream to scale yoga studios, and I credit the really my children. It wasn't until I got pregnant the first time that I really became quite obsessed with everything I was consuming, what I was putting into my body, what I was surrounding myself with, like the type of people and the content and all that. And I really started to research that. And that can be a whole long story in itself. But post baby number two, I did go back to teaching yoga, and I just knew that I wanted something more that incorporated, what I studied in university, which is, identity issues and multiculturalism and the global politics, and specifically in terms of, our food systems and that kind of thing. And that's where I found integrated nutrition, health coaching, got that certification. And it really allowed me to pull in, the wisdom of yoga and everything that I've been sort of dabbling in the wellness on that front, on the physical and emotional and arguably spiritual side, and really think, how can I help more people bring this into their lives, even if, I think everyone can enjoy the yoga class, but that's not necessarily the path for everyone. And there are so many ways to pull healthier threads into our lives and see how much more enjoyable life can be, how much more impact, how much more confidence one can have, how much easier it is to make decisions on the day to day when you're honing in some, key foundations of your health, whether that's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And there's, lots of overlap in what you can focus on. So yeah, from there, I owned and operated a health and wellness magazine for a little bit at a time when it was, magazines print magazines were kind of dying. But it was a good experience, and it taught me a lot about writing and editing and all these other content creation skills that I use in my business today. From there, I really had this plan. I was living in Mexico still at the time, and we knew that we wanted our kids to kind of finish their schooling in Canada. What can I want to build a global business that is, independent of geographic location. And I came to really hone in on coaching, got different certifications, and really focused. To me, wellness is like beyond health. Health is kind of like a base minimum to optimize oneself in ways that you want to really go after your dreams and live in alignment with your true core values. There's kind of additional layers, one of which is usually mindset, and that kind of plays into the identity as well. Like, in order to really shift into the person we want to be, sometimes it's some tweaks in our perception of our identity. And yeah, I mean, I can, I'm love to talk, so I can go on forever, but I think the next logical place was focusing on female entrepreneurs largely. I mean, love working with men. I've worked with several, but I tend to attract clients that are female and or non-binary. And I really felt called to help women in this area where they're starting businesses. In the past several years, it's really been scaling startups in the tech industry, in health tech and femtech, where they're really qualifying a triple bottom line, right? So their inspiration is people, planet, and profit. And they're creating solutions to, sometimes small, sometimes massive problems. And I just love being, their cheerleader in the background, making sure that they're taking care of themselves. And most recently, really helping them fundraise if they're in the startup space with a wellness aligned approach. Again, you are trying to, it really, in any part of, improving your career, you want to be showing up with the best possible energy. And in order to do that, you need to be taking care of yourself in a way that is sustainable. So I always come back to this: sustainable and integrated, and less is more. Like, you can't try back to the resolutions. You can't do a 180 and try like 6 new wellness trends all at the same time, for so many reasons. I mean, it's not sustainable, first, and second, you don't really know what's working, and like, what's your personal jam? Like, what is your non-negotiable wellness tool that really supports you? And then the others that, might be popular with some people, but not necessarily for you.
Thank you, Megan. I mean, that's quite a bit. I mean, first of all, it's impressive just to listen to you. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that you've gone through, and I mean, it's demonstrated successes because, in a way, listen. I mean, anyone, again, I keep going back to this. You have to listen to the shows and see, like, how this stuff goes. And Megan's drive is powerful, but your journey itself, I mean, it's just amazing to hear all the things that you've done. That's one, and that makes you an expert, literally, to be able to share your values with entrepreneurs, especially women. And by the way, listen, as you said, I mean, there's a lot of need for assistance when someone is still fresh in a business. And entrepreneurship is not a picnic, as we would call it. I mean, anyone who's tried. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems with people always saying, you know what, it's difficult to do business, because it is difficult in a way. It's not easy. It's not. You have to have the determination and the power and the tools. And to your point, wellness is part of that, because it does affect you physically, mentally. It challenges you in a lot of ways. And most people don't want to deal with that. They just rather just, I get a job, I'm good. I just, get up, go to work, come back, and done. But as an entrepreneur, you have to deal with everything else, and it does take a lot of work. And so assistance and help is well welcomed into that environment. And you have found that angle, and helping fellow women around the world to do this stuff. And again, you do. I know you worked with men as well, but really, at the end of the day, the concept's almost the same. But with the feminine approach, you have a little bit more of angle. You can share quite a bit of that yourself through your own experiences. And I love what you said earlier about the concept that wellness is deeper than just health. I mean, yeah, I mean, health is obviously the core, the base, the foundation, but the wellness is what makes that health even better. And wellness here can go beyond, as you said. There's yoga is just a methodology that it can help you, I guess, be aware of things, be mindful, zen, and all the stuff. But there's a lot more that goes into nutrition is a bigger one, and I know that's a bigger part of your work as well. And by the way, nutrition is the biggest problem these days. I mean, we hear it, we know it, it's a fact, it's in the media. I think it's catching up a little bit on mass on regular media more than ever. For the longest, it was almost like, it was the blind eye. You look the other way. It was not even a discussion. Now we hear a lot more of that. In a lot of ways, it's a fact, right? And
Mhm.
there's some, I would say, there's some improvements. I mean, at least in the states. I mean, again, it's amazing because every country is different, but I can tell you from the state's perspective, we are probably in a very bad shape when it comes to wellness and nutrition in general. I love what you said about the resolution, or multiple resolutions, because I think that's really where the debate is. Everybody waits until that December ends, like, okay, I'm going to do this. January comes, okay, I'm going to get started again, and then they just whoosh, they go up and they go down, they go up. It's really, you have to be consistent. It's a long journey. It's a marathon. It's not a, every year let me just try something different, and you help people with that. Now you've done quite a bit, obviously. Now you wrote a new book, and I love the title, Marinate in the Chaos. I mean, chaos. I mean, I think there isn't an actual concept of chaos in life. I mean, we all kind of experience chaos at a point of our lives, and really, it's a real thing, and people experience it. It's difficult. You kind of figure out a way to to almost like break it down and give the measures and the tools in your book to help people, and it's based on, again, the work you do, and how you've been helping others. So let's kind of like talk about the breakdown of that book and the source of it, and the elements within.
Yeah. Well, it's part memoir. So my, somewhat crazy, twisted, eat, pray, love, Latin style story over the last 15 years. But it's also a roadmap. And, I think, again, women are going to resonate with a lot of the themes in there more than men, although I'm getting like rave reviews from men in my life as well. It's for people that are serious about getting healthier for good. They're not looking for a quick fix. They're not looking into the trends. They're what's the bigger picture to feel better now, sure, but in a way that I can actually keep up and that it feels like who I am, a part of who I am, or as a way of life, not, this check mark on your never-ending to-do list. So chaos, it comes up in terms of navigating living in a different culture, comes up in terms of growing up in an alcoholic family system, navigating my own high functioning alcoholism. I'm now 7 years sober. The chaos that is motherhood, like bringing children into a marriage, into your life, is its own sort of chaos. And then the chaos, I would argue, of entrepreneurship. Like it's not for everyone. Like you said, there's a lot of um, stability and like this sense of, hopefully if you have a 9 to 5, you actually get to leave, your work behind on the weekends and have time to yourself to focus on other things. Whereas when you're in entrepreneurship or in a startup, you really have to build that into your mindset that you're taking a break. Otherwise, it's just keeping you up at night. And yeah, so the story is quite raw, quite vulnerable. It's a relatable journey in a lot of ways. And really my intention to the reader is that, you take what serves you and you kind of leave the rest, because there's I think one core idea at the end of the day for me, in terms of leaning into, your inner compass and trusting your intuition when you feel like you're in a chaotic situation or, industry or environment or, chapter of your life, is, status quo is not really designed for anyone. Like it's designed to keep us uh, you know, in control or in line. But so many times in my life when I was like, yeah, that doesn't really sound ideal to me. Like, doing the 9 to 5 in my case, or, doing what everybody says you should do when XYZ horrible thing happens in your life. What if you just got really in tune to what you actually personally want to do in that situation and then navigate from there, opposed to trying to fit yourself into a box all the time. And again, I think this kind of, well, from my perspective as a woman, like there's a lot of boxes that we're taught to fit into, people pleasing, the good girl mentality, like be the good girl, and then all these things will supposedly happen, or, just follow this recipe for success and everything will be amazing. And just increasingly the recipes that we grew up with in our generation are almost completely irrelevant. Like it's not how it is anymore. And, like a simple example would be family systems. Like it's completely different. My parents were on the cusp of, divorce kind of being more common. But even in their generation, it was kind of like, you didn't advertise that your parents were divorced if you didn't have to, because it kind of, put you in this box that maybe you didn't want to be in. And now there's just so many different versions of families. And, my husband and I, we got together, we were, had children, we built and designed a dream home, all before we got married. So we've been together for 15 years, but we've only been married 7 or 8 now. We're both so horrible with the anniversary. It's this ongoing joke. But anyway, I'll I'll pause.
So Megan, thank you. I mean, you're touching on some heavy duty stuff. I mean, as you said, the status quo, right? Everybody is kind of conditioned to that, right? It's like, it's easy, it's a perception, right? It's like, it's a cool thing to just kind of work the system as is and try not to do more, but it's not reality. As you said, no matter how you want to slice it, you will find yourself shifting because things are shifting around us rapidly. And the more we don't adjust ourselves and kind of challenge that status quo, the more we actually get, more, I think, deeper in chaos and loss, because you're not figuring out like what things are not happening, what's going on, and yet the reason it's not happening is because he's not adjusted. I mean, there is a level of adaptability that we have to get, and it's a very difficult thing, and sometimes we lose that. I mean, it's like the ship sails faster than you can catch, or the train is gone, and you're like, what's going on? It's never too late, but it is a difficult thing. And you're right, but a lot of people try just to be conformed to, as you said, the boxes or the formats that were already given to us. And you're right, we're moving. I mean, this world is changing. I mean, again, you're talking about generations. I mean, before social media, post social media, it's a big different world right now, right? I mean, just like look at the TikTok ban, it almost drove people nuts, right?
Mhm.
Luckily it's back. But just to give you an example, how the impact is, it's not small stuff. I mean, it changed lives. I mean, even in terms of business. I mean, how many people are thriving business wise through this in entrepreneurship using social media as their platform to speak? I mean, before, in order for you to be a talent, you had to be discovered by a talent agency, right? To
Mhm.
potentially put you on I don't know, a movie, a documentary, a TV show, whatever. Now you don't have to do that. You can actually go and showcase yourself, in the social media. And I mean, I was just following, and they had the billion followers summit in Dubai, and I mean, you had
Mhm.
these people that have billions of of followers, and millions of followers, and they all people that have started small, just given some content level, and they just flourished into it, and it works. And so we live in a different dynamic world, and things have shifted. As you said, the family formats have changed, the perception of things have changed. And I love what you said about the entrepreneurship, because it is not something that ends. I mean, once you're, especially in the startup, I mean, it's the
Mhm.
pre-planning, the during, and it's continuously, and it's not 9 to 5. It's like 24/7. And if you don't manage that correctly, it's gonna, drive you nuts. And that's where people sometimes they lose it, and then they drop the ball, because it is,
Mhm.
again, you have to have the stamina, and if you don't manage it correctly, and do certain things to work that system, it can be very devastating. I mean, anyone who's tried a business, I say it's very easy for someone who has never tried a business to judge, oh, they failed, they did this. First of all, there's no failure. The people, I have to say this, and I believe in this firmly. Anyone that ever tried a business, even if they didn't succeed in that business, in the sense that we don't see them making millions and blah blah
Mhm.
blah, they
Economically,
still
yeah.
they still won. they still learn things that you, if you have never tried that, will never know what they've gone through, the expertise, the experience, the steps. They learn tricks and tips and how not to do things, or how to do things differently for the next one. And if they maintain, they keep doing, they eventually they're going to be able to be successful in whatever they do, because they're just going to gain more and more knowledge and skills, and ways of tweaking things until they figure out. You have to keep doing things. You have to, work things around over and over until you become, more expert at it, and then the rest is history. But really, that's what it is. So these are things that are, that are powerful. And then I love what you said, that, I mean, even the name of the book, I mean, chaos. Again, we all have chaos. And then you mentioned a few things about your dynamics, your, upbringing, the family, environment. These are things that actually real, and everyone has some sort of a level of that. If you're watching, listening, doesn't matter what part of the world, what culture, what religion, there is a level of all of that in our lives. And based on how we handle things, it could be, difficult, or it could be easy. That's one way. The other thing is, a lot of these things determine how, almost it fuels that transformation and the stuff to get us to the next level. Because really, many success stories that we know today have begun with chaos. Something happened, major things happen. And I think that this theme always repeats itself in a lot of the shows. I find myself discussing this because it is a real thing of life. Bad things happen, so good things, better things happen. And it's almost like a rule of life. I mean, there's certain rules that are guaranteed. Like they say, just always believe that the bad thing, the worst thing is always going to happen, guaranteed. And it will. What your worst nightmare is going to happen, it's going to happen. And it's really concepts that are real. If you apply them and if you understand them, you can navigate to them. I love that you've approached that, in a way. And by the way, it's not the end of the world. We all have different, things, challenges in life. A lot of people, sometimes, they, at the first wind, at the first storm, they'd be like, whoa, this is too much. I mean, yes, it's not easy, folks. We're not making it, light here, but there is a fact of life. You just have to be prepared that, I actually, personally, this is true story. Whenever it's so calm and everything is peachy, I start wondering, when's the next hit? I mean, I swear I do this. Like, because I know it cannot be that way. There's no way it's just going
Yeah.
to be so smooth. And anyone, I mean, that's the thing. Like, we all look at social media, at almost the images that we get from everywhere, right? They look perfect. I mean, someone had said one time, people are not going to go on social media and talk negative of themselves, or show themselves in very vulnerable or bad state. They always show you the best of the best of the best. But that's
Yes.
what we see
Period.
is,
Totally.
yeah, what I'm saying, we look at it that way and we think that's the way it is, but it's not. Anyone out there, will tell you that is not. It's a facade. Sometimes that's what we want the world to know. That's what I mean. I don't have it easy. I'm sure you don't have it easy. People don't have it easy. And yeah, but if you look at, my poster, you might not see that the case, but there is stuff going on in the back, right? It's like this is the stage. I mean, let's say an act, right, on a theater. It looks beautiful, but so much operation going on in the back, right? I mean, all these guys that doing the production stuff, the lights, the sound, and that's just a simple example. There's so much going on. A concert, someone is performing, but one guy in the back, stops, a switch, and everything goes to chaos, right?
Yeah.
Security, and that's really, so a lot of turmoil happening at all times, but you gotta keep the show going, but you have to manage it. So it's amazing that you've touched on these things in this book, and the idea is that it is helping, others to see it. And I think that's the thing, people sometimes don't see it in the way it is, and you break it down from a possible realistic way, right? It's not the like the dream world, it's the real world. So what else can we get, from the concepts that you have in the book, in terms of really tools and tips to really go beyond, become a lot more well, mentally and physically.
Well, I mean, one tool that's laced throughout the book, there are really powerful journal prompts at the end of every chapter. And that's always been a tool for me to really help me hone like my inner compass. Like, what do I actually think and feel about this topic or this situation that I'm in, or this emotion that's coming up? So I think that can be one powerful tool that's directly in the book. But then overall, the concept of, okay, like one of the beautiful things about living in Mexico for 15 years was embracing, like, first there was, as a Canadian who generally doesn't like chaos, very resistant to a lot of the things. When you first go to a new culture and you have no plans to live there, you're kind of like in the honeymoon phase. Like everything's exotic and different and crazy and fun and but it's like totally different when you're setting up a life and a business and raising children. And then you have to deal with like the deeper layers of a culture. And for better for worse, but one of the beautiful things about Mexican cultures, and I think, many cultures throughout the world, is they're so much better than North American culture is at accepting life is chaotic. Like the only constant is change. And just having like a little bit more levity around and flexibility around, the plan changing. Or, they don't necessarily have the same perception around the importance of insurance policy, let's say. I'm not saying you don't need an insurance policy, but that there's and we saw, and the most, I think, tangible recent example that we all experienced was the pandemic. And we saw the people that have, all of their sanity hanging on their life not changing at all, or certain structures or plans like continuing in the same exact way. And as soon as they had to like you know, go with the flow, whether it's like in a meeting, now all the meetings are virtual and they're not tech savvy, or now they have to order their groceries online, and there's new and fun or not so fun problems that come up with these like tiny everyday things. But layer upon layer of tiny everyday things changing all at the same time is extremely stressful. So in the book I focus on, okay, what is certain is change. Like I like to think, and I don't know who the philosopher is that first brought it up, but we don't talk about. There's no point in talking about the future. It's futures. Like we don't know what's going to happen. So what can you do to be as prepared? Like what is in your control? Focus on that instead of focusing on all these things that society sometimes draws our attention to focus on. When in fact, you can control how nutritious you're eating every day. You can control, for the large part, the quality of sleep that you're getting. You can control whether in an extremely stressful moment, you then take a time to, decompress, or take 10 deep breaths, or call a friend. I can't remember what's the show that you used to be able to call a friend as an option to get help.
Was that Deal or No Deal? I forgot. One of those, yeah.
I love that show. Um, and just bring, or intentionally seek out a new community. Like what are the things that you can do to kind of thread a wellness and health and wellness safety net, if you will, of the things that are in your control, and focus on that, opposed to we tend to like to blame exterior forces for how we're feeling, what's going on in our work situation, politics, all this, right? Where at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do to control those things. When certain things are already in place and already moving forward, maybe the best thing you could do is turn off the news, for example, and read some poetry.
Well, Megan, I'm listening to you, right? This is a real problem that we have. I mean, and by the way, I love how you breaking it down to us here, because we as humans, we do have this whole fear of the future, right? And we spend so much time, anticipating things that we have very little control over, and you have no idea what that future holds. As much as we plan, I mean, you can plan all you want. Obviously, there is a level of planning we have to do in life, but no matter what you plan, there is another plan. And even in the business world, right? A lot of people, they feel that they want to have a full marketing strategy, a sales strategy, a business plan, and stuff. And the best experts in business will tell you, no matter what business plan you start with, there's a good chance it's going to be different, a couple of years from now, right? Because, but you have to have a start point. The problem is we dwell so much on what can go wrong and all the options. Now, of course, you have to remove all the possibilities. If you can't, some things are tangible, like you can do equations of things, 1 + 1 = 2, blah, blah, blah. You can figure things out. But there are things you have no control over. And that's the thing. You have no idea who you're going to meet next year or next time or next month, and how the audience is. You can do all the market research, and there's a whole new trend, and it changes things. Again, I mean, right now we're the word of AI. Who would have known? I mean, you and I, we met before AI.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean,
Not that
now
long
we have
ago.
AI. Yeah. So I mean, and it's only a couple of years, right? things have changed, right? So we have a lot of things that that change on time, and but we still remain as humans focused on like what can go wrong, and so that creates anxiety, and that's name.
Yeah.
Depression can happen there easily, right? Then you have people who actually are stuck in everything that went wrong, and they're afraid
The
of all the
past.
bad experiences because not that's kind of like oh my god, every single scenario that is bad, you'll bring into your mind based on some experience. Well, what happened, learn from it. That's the other thing where I always say we never fail, we learn. So whatever happened in the past, it's not bad. It might have some bad outcomes, but you know what? There is good outcomes. The first outcome from any bad situations, you learn that it's bad, right? So you know
Yeah.
never to do it again. So you already learned that trick. Now you have a place. But you're right. There are things you can control, as you said, today is happening. I mean, the only time that we exist in is today, the moment. Really, because the past is gone time, future, no guarantee. You live in this moment. Right now, we're here on the show. And so that's all there is. But that's kind of like how it works. We go with this moment at a time, and then it adds up. But you have things. I can breathe. That's a good thing. I can do that now. I can eat properly. I can, as you said, you sleep? Yes, you can do a better way about sleeping and getting your energy back and so on, especially from a wellness perspective. So these are things. Do you have things that you can control? I love what you said that culturally, that's also a very diversified place. I mean, depending where you are part of the world, everybody sees the world differently. There's a level of religion, there's a level of belief, there's a level of culture, and everyone has it differently. And so it's not a cookie cutter, concept, which again, we always want to have that same exact. What is your secret magic formula? There is none, folks. If there was, we'd all be like, take a pill, everything is good. That's not how it works. And by the way, we can take the same pill and probably the outcomes will be different because your body will take it differently than I would, right? So
Yeah.
again, so the more we agree on understand these things, the easier life becomes. And as you said, there's no reason to go crazy on the future. But that again, for people say, "Oh, are you telling me, Hurricane, that I shouldn't be planning in the best?" That's not what we're saying. You do your best with what you have today. And then as new things happen and get you new tools that are available to you, use the new tools to adjust and adapt. And again, on the concept AI, a couple of years back, we didn't have that. So we used what we had, in our, possession and access, right? Now we have AI. There's so much stuff we can do with AI to help us do better and improve on things. That's all there is. So but we cannot be like, oh my God, how do we do this? And that's one. So now I want to ask you about this. I mean, and it's I think a topic that you're expert in, like intuition and decisions and making some real decisive, decisive stuff. And really, how does that work? Because I think that's a bigger problem again as humans. We do fear to make decisions because we are afraid of the outcomes of our decisions. And by the way, this is real in the business world as much as it is in life.
Yeah.
If you take a group anywhere, they always stay quiet until someone wants to raise their hand and they want to be the first one to go and make that call. And then if they don't like what they say, then they're like,
Yeah.
well, who put you in charge, right? So it's kind of like it's a natural status that we have as humans is that we are afraid of making decisions and moves. And so how do you in your expertise and in your world, how do you handle that? I mean, the intuition part,
Yeah.
because that's important because we all have that, and really the ability to make some decision that is somehow good or bad at because the outcomes are still always going to be not sure. I mean, you can do calculated risks, but at the end of the day, how do you deal with that? How do you even help people understand that concept?
Yeah. Well, it really comes down to, at the end of the day, self leadership, right? Like, in order to be a good leader, whether maybe you don't want to be a leader, but you need to lead your own life. And if you're the head of a family, lead the family. And so it's coming back to honing your self trust, your intuition. There's kind of two layers of intuition. There's intuition, like you just react to something because it's instinctual, we're animals. But then there's like bigger decisions that you can, pause, consider, and you have this gut instinct. And this goes back to how we're raised and how we're socialized, really, to not trust that. We're socialized to trust the status quo recipe versus, wait a minute, what do I want to do? Like, what would I actually think is a better path for me personally, or for this decision in my business? And let's face it, at the end of the day, the innovation comes and success comes when, like you've touched on this many times, It's all about failing fast, failing forward, growth mindset. It's like, okay, we tried it, failed, pivot. Tried it, failed, pivot. That is the recipe of business. And every extremely successful individual in the world has failed multiple times. And most of them are quite transparent. I think that's changing a lot, where we're not afraid to talk about all the crazy things we tried before we got to the right choice. Now, when you're talking about making a personal decision in your life, again, it's like, let's not outsource our agency and our trust. Like,
Mhm.
let's take some time to get quiet. It's one of the most, I think, impactful outcomes of some sort of mindful practice. Now, you also mentioned, I completely agree. There's no one size fits all health and wellness. So you have to figure out what works for you. Like, maybe it's going for a walk with a friend outside. Maybe it's some sort of breath work or meditation. Maybe it's going to some, a Zumba class. Like, what is it that makes you have the opportunity to pause and kind of like be just with you? Essentially, practice being present, which our entire modern society is designed to keep us not in the present moment. It's once, the most one of the most valuable things these days is our attention, right? So it's like they want you focusing mostly on the future and like fear about all the possible things that could happen, instead of being present with yourself, with your family, with your friends, looking people in the eyes, looking strangers in the eyes, smiling and having conversations with the person that's at the checkout. I don't know how it is in the US, but that's been like really hard culture shock coming back, where it's really hard to find somebody, an actual human being, to check you out at the pharmacy or at the grocery store. Like, it's all self checkout, and it drives me absolutely bonkers. But anyway, this coming back to taking a moment and really honing, like, again, journaling is another, whether it's gratitude journaling or using prompts or just free flow, where morning pages, there's a lot of people that talk about that practice, which is just pen to paper, free flow. You're never going to read it again. It's just helping you organize your thoughts and your emotions and get good at recognizing your own patterns around how you're responding to things. And then ultimately, like Pema Chodron, one of my favorite meditation teachers, leaders, would say, like, choose an alternative path. If you want to have a different life than you currently are living in, whether that's in terms of your emotional state, your how your physical energy feels, what your situation is, at the end of the day, it's going to come to making some sort of change, choosing an alternative path, whether that's starting one or maybe two new healthy habits and see where they go. Like, this is so informative for me over 14 years. Like, every time I started a new healthy habit, and they were not all at the same time, it took me on a road that I couldn't have ever imagined that that was where it was going to lead. Whether that was to some other incredible practice, or, like you said, meeting people that I never thought I would meet. Yeah, you don't know what doors are going to open until you take that time and you get to know yourself better, and then ultimately trust yourself and these instincts you have on ways to go. And some people do better by kind of, sampling their ideas with their community, their close loved ones, or, even online maybe. I caution you to trust social media with, major life decisions that you're contemplating. I think the most powerful is to take back your agency and go offline, get quiet. And again, whether that's just being out in nature or, quiet, I think is more like self-reflective and just present in the moment. And for some people, that can mean, it doesn't mean silence. It can mean being in a piece of music or dancing or running. There's like so many things that kind of are more conducive to different individuals finding that sense of calm in the chaos.
Is there a checklist for someone? I mean, a basic checklist of elements, and I know that could change, but like, are there basic elements that we all could share in terms of these, exclusive agency discussions we're gonna have with ourselves. What do you? I mean, your work. What we think like the three top ones that each and every one should kind of like check. To kind of at least see where they stand. Is there even a checklist of that aspect of it, or it will be just something that's customizable? But because I think that there has to be some consistent across all of us in humanity, as these are the basic things. Is it good, is it bad, is it this, is it like three things that we have to ask ourselves at all times to see our default settings, if you want to call it that way. Is there such a thing?
Yeah. Well, you mean like a checklist to see whether you're in alignment and like
All
you,
right. Well, yeah, like when you wake and making a decision, like things that I want to make sure that these things have to be part of that global planning. I
yeah.
just have to figure out what it is. I mean, is there a thing? I'm just asking, because
I mean, that's a great question. I don't like, I'll make it up on the spot based on how I think about this. So I think first of all is to do an exercise with yourself. What are my values? Because not everyone has asked themselves that question. Like, what are my 5 core values in life? Things that I want to feel like I'm living in alignment with. So, for some people, that's being open minded. For other people, it's compassion. For other people, it's sustainability. Like, what are your key core values? And so then that I would say becomes kind of like the top of the checklist.
of it.
Is this in alignment with how I say I want to live my life? And then I would say it's more like a gut check or, tuning in on the physical level. How do I feel? How does my body react? Like, am I tensing up? Is it easy to breathe? Does it make me smile? Like that's sort of like the gut check of whatever the decision is. And I can't remember if we can swear on this podcast, so I'll not. But you know,
It's all
essentially,
right.
when if it's not a heck yes, it's probably a no. Like if it's not lighting you up, then something needs to be unraveled for you to figure out like why is it not, oh my God, I'm in. Like amazing, yes, I'm all in. And mostly that often has to do with how we've been socialized. We're feeling obligated to do the thing, whether it's from a work vector, from family, from society, from religion. Like what is kind of like influencing your sense of, yeah, but I really feel like I should do it versus I really want to, and it excites me. And then I think the third is sitting with it. I think this is we're a lost art of the pause. Sitting, nobody's, I mean, I like to say there's no emergencies in business, but take 24 hours. You get an email that feels triggering, or you need to make a big decision. Take 24 hours, 72 even. And I know so many entrepreneurs these days that have like an automated reply. Hey, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. I'm doing this and this. It'll be 72 hours before I get back to you, right? If it's an absolute emergency, like here's the solution, or who's your contact, or, email me again or whatever. But I think building in these boundaries and allowing yourself to pause on a decision and then kind of like run it through. Okay, so you run it through your values, your physical reaction, and then like how do you emotionally feel about this decision? And because sometimes it's hard in when you're under time pressure to consider all the ways that it's going to affect your decision. So I'll give you a very personal example, which was in my relationship when infidelity came up, with the decision to like completely disregard the entire plan and the family that we had and etc. Or could I choose an alternative path? And
Well, yeah,
so I think those are like some three kind of
I think you summarize it quite well, for because I can relate to all those, and I think everybody watching and listening can really see that value of those. Because you're right, if we don't know what our values are, We don't have a question with our guts. I mean, I think we all do this exercise, but you've highlighted well that it came out naturally as a top, tier things. And you're right. The other thing is we live in an emergency where everything is urgent and we're supposed to respond to everybody like, ooh. And again, that's a reactive, approach of life to life. And it's really not the best because sometimes it's like you send that email like, oops, I shouldn't have sent that. Or you put something like, oops, I should have, maybe articulated differently. And that's really what happens. We almost kind of like have this perception that we're, forced to do this, but we're not. I mean, as you said, you can take your time. People have to wait. No one has to, we live these rules that are arbitrary in a way, and or at least they've been the standard across different platforms and different ways of doing things. But who says that's the only schools of thought that there is? There's different ways. And you're right. You can stop and take a breather and just figure out things and then respond at your own pace. It's the same thing. If you and I have an argument and we just go at it, the first thing that's going to happen, and we're probably going to destroy our relationship because that's it. Because I'm going to say the wrong thing, I'm going to say, and that goes for relationships as well, for business, for anything. You take a moment, you go review things, maybe get some facts and put them all together, then analyze things. You'll have a little bit more informed decision making and ability to respond to stuff. And in life, that's the best thing. I mean, I love what you said about earlier when you mentioned something about leadership. We lead our lives. And I think that's the thing. We don't look at our life as a business, but it is the business of being, of existing, right? So you're the first Inc.
Yeah.
or first corporation. There is no, all the other corporations are secondary. You are it, and then your immediate family is the second, and so on and so forth. And you lead in that. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not a leader. Yes, you are leading your life. Your decisions are basically crucial to your living, right? Whatever you make, I mean, when we talk about chaos, right? We determine that chaos sometimes. We do it ourselves. If we go into any path, it's by choice. You know, someone, I mean, we've had shows about addiction and so on and so forth. It is still a path that we select. I mean, we like something, we go into it without knowing that this thing's going to be really the worst, angle. And it feels good for a moment, then you continue in that path, and before you know it, it's like, whoa, what happened? But it was a set of small decisions that got you to where you are today. And now what gets you back is, again, a set of decisions to get out of it. And if you're not, mature enough or aware, you're going to continue in that wrong path. And it's like going the wrong path, knowing that maybe there's no outlet, and you're stuck somewhere, and you keep going, and you're going to get into a blockade, a nice little wall, and you're going to like, what the hell? I can't go nowhere. So, but it is us. So I love that thing that you mentioned about leadership starts here, and really we have the controls. And these things that you've enumerated, in terms of your basic. And by the way, that was a random question because as you're talking, I'm thinking about it like there's got to be, certain things that we all should be kind of looking for. And you said, I mean, the only other thing I would add to that one would be like you got to have clear goals of what do you want. I mean, and even that, I mean, again, we all have goals of life, in our lives. I mean, we want something. And I think if you ask anybody, what do you want? I want to be successful. Okay. Well, what does that mean? I mean, I think that's a very, common denominator. Everybody wants to have the life. Well, what's the life? It is Megan's life. Is it, Hurricane's life? Is it, a star's life? Is it, what does that life, even mean? You see the glamour. Okay. So maybe I want a glamorous life. What does that mean to you? Those are things that we don't even sometimes reflect on. We want a lot, and I
Mhm.
think by nature we want everything that everybody else has, and sometimes we don't even look at what we have. I mean, we all have gems, and I think that's the other thing. Every single person watching or listening is zillionaire, or if there's an infinite air, I think you are, because you have things that no one else has. You are unique, and there's no one else that can replace Megan or me, or there may be similar people, but there's only one you, one me, one everyone that's watching and listening. And you have a lot of stuff in you, and everyone, there's a rule that I've applied a long time ago, is that if someone can do something, there's a good chance I can do it myself. I mean, I can learn it and I can still do it, right? Or maybe it's not for me and I'm not going to do it. But if it can be done, anyone else can do it. And it's a fact. I mean, anything can be learned. And yeah, some people have different talents and stuff, and so they can attend different ways. But at the end of the day, if can we do this show? Can anybody actually go and do a talk? Yes, you can. Can That's why we have experts that teach you how to speak in public or speak and do things. Can you be a carpenter? Yes, you can learn that. Can you be an artist? You can learn that. Can you be a doctor? You can learn that? You know, the only thing you can't can be somebody else. No, you can only be you. You can be somebody else's look, but it's still going to be your version, and that's the thing. So you are the zillionaire with everything you have. It's not the money. But again, these are the things. I think when we start staging ourselves and seeing ourselves in a better light, we'll be better. And again, I think we also live in a comparative world. Like, we compare ourselves to everybody else. Well, they have it. Why can't I have it? Everybody's got a different path, right? We, again, talking about decisions, we all make decisions from the minute we're actually born in this world and aware. I mean, obviously not when you're a baby, you don't make decisions. They do it for you. But as soon as you start making a little bit of, understanding of life, you start making things. And some of them are like the first, no, no. And you tell your parents, no. I mean, that's the first one. That's when you're aware of things that you don't agree with. But it goes that way, but it continues. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think it's really connecting all the dots about the life that we have. I mean, life is not simple, and I love how you prescribed it and described it in your book as chaos. Because everybody lives in a chaotic, environment, and how we deal with the chaos, and so there's a storm everywhere, and we can adjust through the storm and make it feel like nothing, and you're doing that now. You work specifically with in startup entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the common, I would not mistakes, but common challenges that you've experienced with folks that are starting up that you can maybe give advice to today that they shouldn't even entertain or they shouldn't be worried about?
Yeah, well, I think the probably key one is not seeing taking care of yourself as the founder as an investment in your business. When your business, you are your business at the very beginning, and usually for 5 to 7 years, depending on whether you're planning on an exit strategy or scaling to a point where you then have a team and you're not wearing all the hats. But in the beginning, you're wearing all or most of the hats. And if you're not well, and that we're talking about, mentally making great decisions, focused, high vibe, attracting the opportunities that you want to attract, the investors, all of that, you're not doing everything you can to succeed in that sense. You need to prioritize how you think and feel and are showing up in your business. And in order to do that, we're back to health and wellness. Like, what are you eating? Are you sleeping? How are you building rest and recovery into your week? And how are you strategically managing stress? Because stress is inevitable. Stress can be a great catalyst for growth. We need a certain amount of stress, like we're lifting weights, putting in the reps. That's how we're getting stronger at things. At the same time, you have to put the weight down intentionally. I would argue at least once a day. We're using this analogy, but completely for a whole day a week. And so I think the common error there is not seeing how essential this piece of the puzzle is from the get-go, because so many are just focusing on like, where's the revenue coming in, which you do need to focus on that in the beginning. How are we making money? How is the money coming in, or are we seeking funding? Is the funding coming in? And really those two, it's essentially a sales funnel in both scenarios. But in order for that to happen, that process is like a sprint within a marathon, if you will. Like, usually you get to focus on that in a quarterly space, but it's not like you get off that train at all, or very often, or until you get to a point where, again, you have a team and you can really get off the train fully. So it's how do I prepare myself for this marathon? It's like the same way I looked at birthing babies. Like, you're birthing an idea, you're birthing this like massive new movement maybe, or this thing into the world, and you need to be strategic about how you're gonna not just show up in the very beginning, but have a clear strategy that you can show up at that kind of quality of energy and focus and passion at solving that specific problem in the long term.
Well, thank you. And I'm listening to you and just like I'm almost realizing this fact of life. And you're right. We tend to forget of ourselves, especially in the business world and even in family. I mean, a lot of people will sacrifice themselves for their family, and they go into extreme stress and depression and stuff because they want everything to be great, but they on the to depends of their detriment, basically, right? So they hurt themselves to serve others. While that's probably, good, honorable thing to do, it is not the smart way to do, because if you can only maintain that for so long, and before you know it, you're gonna burn out, and you can't be any good to anyone that's around you. And as you said, a business, family, they're things that you cherish, that you actually develop, and that you work towards, growing. And if you lose that, and I love this ties in quite well with your concept of wellness as a way of life. Doesn't matter. We've gone personal, we've gotten to the business, and it goes back to the wellness. If you're not well physically and mentally, and you don't have the tools to get you there, nothing else is going to matter. And that's actually a true thing. I mean, if you look again at people that are successful, there's a level of wellness, the way they eat, the way they do work out, they wake up, they do, now, although there are some things that I think sometimes are too extreme when they say, I sleep 4 hours. I don't subscribe to that one.
Mhm.
Because frankly, sleep and nutrition and exercise, these three
Sleep is
things
your
are
number
mandatory.
one tool, like bottom line.
It's your reset button. Your body
Yeah.
needs all that. But you see, like, but some in some schools of thought, business, I hear these things, and I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I spend a lot of hours. Well, where do you sleep? Well, I don't sleep. Well, that doesn't mean necessarily it's the right way to do it. You can still be
Yeah.
successful. But I love what you said. You're in a train, especially in the beginning. You are it. It's your idea. It's your, no one knows your vision more than
Mm.
you. I mean, I can write it down. For example, a good example, the network here, like, my network. It's a small network, right? But it's a vision. It's an ideology that I have, is to bring a resourceful and informative network in a world where there's more news and entertainment and other things, less information, that is accessible. And that's all there is. And by the way, there is information. You can Google anything on YouTube, anything. But I wanted to put it in one place with experts that actually really available in the world, that may not be curated. They talk as is. And so that's kind of like the concept. So I wanted to do something like that. Now, I described it right now, but what it that means, what does that mean in terms of my vision? Only I can see exactly how big I want it and where I see it in 5 years
Mhm.
and 10 years and so on and so forth. And that's just an example. Anyone out there, whatever you have, that's kind of like, you already have, as you said, the values. You know what your core, and that's the other thing, the values. I don't want negativity. I want positive. You know how many times I feel tempted to actually go on my social media and start like screaming and stating, stuff and criticizing things. But I hold myself, because I still believe that my value is not that. It's very easy for us, for example, to go into a tangent and go crazy and start cursing and criticizing everybody for what they're doing. The thing is, like, and by the way, I'm one of the pet beefs I have with some of the media stuff out there is that, you know, it's all about gossip. You say one thing, everybody takes the band, on you, and they start like in the bandwagon, and they start going, after Megan or Hurricane or this or the other, because it's the trend. What happened to positivity? What happened about, like, people are people, humans make mistakes, and any one of us is potentially prone to make a mistake one day or the other. So why do I have to do that? Or it's just like, it's easier for me, instead of creating new content that is powerful, I will actually go and criticize somebody else just to get more views and stuff. So it's a trend that I don't really see as a value in this world, unfortunately. But it is happening, and it is what people want, and I get it, because that's what people enjoy. They like I keep talking about chaos. They like that. They like drama, right? And so, but that's not my value. You see, so I try to stay away from all that. I don't go into politics, because I know there's nothing going to come up positive from it. It's going to be a debate, and we're going to fight, and argue, because everybody's got their own ideology. So I know that, so I don't go there. I don't go religion, because I also, that's another area of taboo. So there are some things that I created, like, as values for me, that I know what my borders and frontiers are in terms of what my content and where I go. Even in talk shows, we kind of get close, but then I move right back, because I know that's not an area that I want to go to. But so I've determined those things. But again, even that, it is still the only thing, the only one that knows where I want that and stuff. Even if I'm exploring this discussion with you now, and just sharing with you some of it, someone can listen, like, well, I think I got you a vision. No, you have no clue what that looks like, because I can see it, how big, how this, what I see, what the programming, what the next stages are. But that's the thing. For every one of us, we have that vision, and only any one of us, or each one of us, will have that alone. And you're right. If we don't take the time for ourselves to actually, really take care of our being, because here's the thing: if you get sick, well, guess what? Everything is going to crumble, because you're not going to maintain. Because here's the thing: if you're building a business and you're not able to be physically present in that business, guess what? it's going to go down, and you get, let's say you have bills, you have overheads and stuff. You're not going to be able to maintain that because you're not able to perform, and so now you lose all that, and then your structure is crumbled, and you're actually in a very not good position. So that's the thing. You are it, we are it, we take care of ourselves. So I love that about your concept. No matter what, you bring it back to wellness and the basics of wellness. And I think that's really a great thing, that if we all, I mean, they should have like a wellness component in every business. And by the way, they do have that now. There's a lot of business wellness, corporate wellness, programs that are available to maintain that people are healthier and more, physically and mentally, fit, and so on and so forth, so they can do better. And there's different things that can help with that. And exercise is one of them. Some companies do sponsor gym, membership and things like that, or programs, and get some Zen moments, yoga and this and the other, some hypnosis. All this stuff is getting there because of what it means to people. Now, I think we've lost that over the years, where it became like work, 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 work. Everybody's got goals. You got to go this, you got to do this. Everybody's stressed. We're going like zombies. But you're almost changing the dynamic through your work, because you're giving people the opportunity to balance, their health and well-being through a wellness full concept. And so I mean, I listen. Like I told you, I am a fan of the work you do in terms of like how the concept is. I mean, and I mean, again, I will go back to this. Listen to Megan's shows. She's available everywhere, Spotify, all the standard platforms. She's also on the network. Listen to her work and her guests, and you will see what I'm talking about. It's all going back to the source. Get the book, and learn the tricks that are available in the books to see how you can navigate the world that we're in, because it is difficult work, but it's not that difficult if we know how to manage it. So, so again, I just wanted to kind of relate to what you just stated there, because I think we all have to we owe it to ourselves, frankly. So, Megan, what are some of the key, takeaways that you want to leave our audiences, today with your concepts in general, through the book, or just, something that you want to give them to take to the bank?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think really at the core of my philosophy and my work is, living and working in a wellness aligned approach is essentially your secret sauce moving forward. Those of us who are integrating this as a strategy to live, a higher quality life now in the moment, but then also, longevity, health span, really just having the ability to feel more grounded in every decision that we make, more confident in whatever goals we're going after. It becomes, yeah, just a part of who you are, and this secret weapon, if you will, if in that the majority of people are not focusing on this. It's an afterthought, or it's a version of it that's arguably, I think, too much. Like, people are trying to do too much. And we talked about decision making. And I think we live in you can always find a sense of abundance in your life, like you talked about. And one thing that is so abundant and relatively unique to the last few generations is our choices. Like, there are just so many things that you could do. And I mean, like, I know for my kids' generation, my generation, we have multiple careers in, our 80-year time, or, let's say 60 work span. And the next generation is, and I would, even you and I think are, you're doing multiple careers at the same time now. And so there's just like layer upon layer of unknowns coming at us. And the more that you can find this grounded sense of safety and calm within, and trusting this inner compass and all of these things that seem like basic health, like eating better, moving your body every day, some sort of stress management, tuning in to how you're actually feeling, how are you processing your emotions, all of that's going to set you up to reach your goals and feel more at ease when you're making decisions about what path to take, and feeling like, I would argue, you want to go for JOMO, like the joy of missing out, versus sitting in this FOMO that society kind of wants us to operate in as our default mode. So really take back your power and know that you have the ability to decide what you're going to engage with what are you going to focus on? You can't focus on all the things at the same time. And so pick pick your path and support yourself by taking better care of yourself so that you can really get wherever it is that you want to go and feel at ease with your decisions and your failures.
Well, thank you, Megan. Just listen to you. I do have a question. I mean, are people afraid to really do this because do they think that this is going to be a burden, a hiccup, or blockade, towards doing what they're supposed to be doing? I mean, is that even a reality? I
I
don't know.
mean,
What do you
I
think?
tend to work with kind of like two strains or streams of clients. Some clients are type A, high achieving. They're telling me their wellness routine, and I'm already exhausted. Like it's just intense. So they're, I would argue, doing too much, and it's like part of what's potentially going to burn them out is they're trying to do, 7 classes a week and meditating, and like the list is long, 20 supplements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the other group is really just focusing, not doing the right things or not doing enough, or really connecting the value of, okay, what am I putting into my body is directly connected to how I feel and my ability to work, to focus, to show up and do the things that I want to do. And they're just kind of like stuck in this malaise of, being distracted. Maybe they're doing like the odd thing that's helping them, but it's just not in a structured way that they're really excited to do it. Like you should be excited and content to take care of yourself. It shouldn't feel like homework.
I think that's so. Yeah. So I guess my question was on point because I do think that's like you covered both angles. I mean, some people are just too extreme, and some people are just like not sure, and they don't want to miss the opportunity. But again, I think the balance is the core of all this. I mean, we have to kind of figure out what that balance is and be able to do it. And here's the good news, folks: if we don't know how to do it, we have experts. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we're not alone. I mean, there's so much stuff that's available to us and so much, access to coaching, to, I mean, we have talk shows, right? That's just basic stuff, but there is more. I mean, you can listen to a show is one thing, but you work with someone to help you, to guide you. And sometimes we do need that. Like, I don't see things, you know, once you do a lot of things, over and over, you start almost being blind to it. Like, that's why you need that fresh look, from the outside, right? Even in corporations, right? You bring somebody, some new blood in, and they can highlight everything. So on the consulting world, like for me, when you go do consulting, you ask all these questions to discover, what's going on, and you see all the bad things that are happening literally just off the bat, just by asking the right questions. And but the people behind the scenes, they're not even seeing that because in their mind they see everything working, and something is off, but they don't figure out what it is. You come out quickly from the outside, it's very easy to see. And that's why, again, working with experts and coaches, and and folks that can guide us is not a bad thing. I mean, if we need the help, we need to seek the help. That's that thing. The other problem is that people, they either are not willing to spend money on things, or they just don't believe that they can get the help, or they just think that they got it. And I think those three are all bad, just bad, really, recipes for us, because we should be able to spend money, because that, by the way, that's a fact. If we want something bad, we'll find the money for it. Two is help is nothing wrong with. I mean, we all need help. There's no one of us that can say that I got this, I would never need help. I don't think there is one. And if they are, I would like to have him on the show. Let's have a discussion to see
I
what.
mean, every single athletic star in the world has a coach or 15, right? Like, so
That's
I
right.
think it all comes down to it's just more fun to do it with somebody else. It's more enjoyable the process instead of trying to carve these things out on your own and sort of hunker down and white knuckle some sort of change that might not even be for you. So it's, again, to your point, giving some different perspectives on, like, what if you actually exercised a little bit less? Or what if you did cardio only these many days versus, or what if you only took 2 of those 20 supplements? Like, do you even know what those 20 supplements are actually? Did you just start taking them all at the same time? So there's like different ways to break down and find your unique less is more approach that just feels good and easy to adopt, opposed to additional work or scary or like you're going to fail at wellness.
That's one thing we don't want to fail at. I mean, if you skip your wellness, I mean, it's it's going to hurt you. I mean, let's call it for what it is, and it's going to cost you a lot more because if your health goes there you go. That's not something we want. We want to focus on being one. That's the other thing. Again, as we you started, health is one thing, but to maintain health, you have to have a wellness system, right? And that's really what, it's a comprehensive package that helps. And by the way, so for people that want to work with you, Megan, how do you work with folks, and what kind of program do you have, and how long does it take for someone, for example, to start with you to start seeing the results?
Yeah, the shortest program I run is 3 months because I think that's like 90 days is the minimum to really see some results and sort of for you to feel like you have the tools moving forward if you decide at that point to, keep going on your own. However, most of my clients work on with year 12-month programs. They really just like to have that accountability, the outsourced motivation, if you will, the wellness BFF in the background being, I chime in weekly with little reminders and there's different options in terms of cadence. Some people are looking for some real intense traction immediately, and then it's weekly or biweekly calls for 3 months. And then clients that are more on the 12-month program tend to we meet twice, or some in cases of extremely busy entrepreneurs, we're meeting like once a month just to keep them accountable and consistent. But it's not like we're adding in a bunch of new layers at that point. It's more about tweaking the mindset that goes along with continually taking good care of yourself so that all the other things are working as you want in your business and your life, and you're feeling happy and satisfied with whatever level of success you're currently existing in, and abundant, and not just reaching for that next level, which ultimately keeps us kind of stuck in this I'm not enough mode that has its own negative impact on your physical and mental well-being. So it's more about accountability, and just like you're starting a new workout routine, it's so much more fun and effective if you start off at the very least by having somebody tell you what's the best way to do it. This is a plan that's specifically for you, not for 100,000 people that you downloaded online, and just having that personalized touch makes it so much easier to keep it up.
Thank you. So how do people kind of sign up for this? I mean, where do I go?
Yeah. So you can reach out to me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, Megan Swan Wellness, or the website, meganswanwellness.com. Or if you want kind of, a sample of this sort of wisdom, check out my podcast, Wellness is a Way of Life. As you mentioned, Hurricane, it's on all platforms. So you can, yeah, I love a good DM conversation. Tell me what's going on, what's coming up for you, and then I can help direct you to, what's the best sort of program that would make the most sense for you for where you are in your journey.
And the book is pretty much available everywhere, right? Amazon and all
Yes,
the
sorry.
good spots. No, that's that.
That's a new thing that I
It's new baby. So we want to highlight that as well because I'm. Is there a PDF? I mean, a downloadable version of it, or is it just hard copy?
Yeah, digitally it's available everywhere. Barnes and Noble, Apple, and Amazon. If you want the paperback, it's available on Amazon. You can just type in Megan Swan and it comes up.
Perfect. Well, Megan, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing, the new values. And, it's been a lot. And we certainly needed a little bit of a refresh on the discussion. And again, wellness is a big topic. I think we all need it. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are. It's something that we need to kind of be always reminded of because sometimes we tend to veer away as we discovered through our discussion today. But yeah, so thank you so much, Megan, for really another great show, another great discussion, and great insights as always. And that's about it, folks. We're at the end of the show today. I'm Rick and H. We'll be talking again, new day, new show, new topic, new guest. Bye for now.